In this video, we're going to roast a whole chicken with succulent, juicy meat and mega crispy skin. Roasting a whole chicken is a skill that sounds pretty simple on paper. It's really one of those things that can be like as easy as you make it, but getting that perfect roasty toasty bird does take a bit of know-how. And there's a reason why a lot of chefs give the same answer for what would your last meal on earth be. You know, they answer with a roasted chicken. It's actually pretty wild how many chefs say that exact same thing. I don't know if they're copying each other, if there's some sort of like inside joke going around that we don't know about. I don't know. Chicken Illuminati. But all jokes aside, I do understand where they're coming from. The chicken resembles comfort, resembles the home. A whole roasted chicken can warm you up on the coldest of winter nights or be the main course for a midsummer dinner. And I mean, everybody wins. Like, the white meat people get what they need, the dark meat people get what they want. Not to mention the bones in the carcass can be turned into a delicious stock after dinner or frozen and made later. Yeah, a whole chicken's a pretty good deal. I'm going to roast two chickens in this video. One will be roasted in a more traditional approach, whatever that means, and the other one will be a little more adventurous in technique and flavor. A compound butter is really just a fancy way of saying butter with a bunch of stuff in it, and that's exactly what we're making here. This first butter is laced with some lemon zest, fresh chopped parsley, garlic, and salt. Very classic flavor pairing. In the second butter, I'm adding ginger, garlic, red chili, cilantro, lime zest, and orange zest. Mix and mash everything together, and we're done with that. Remember, moisture is the enemy of brown food and crispiness, so to showcase this importance, I packed one chicken in a plastic bag to emulate the conditions of a plastic-wrapped, wet grocery store bird. You can see the moisture kind of trapped inside the bag here. Now, the other bird has been dry brined or pre-salted 24 hours in advance. I also let it sit uncovered in the fridge to let the cool, dry air tighten the skin up even more. It's optional, but I recommend doing this if you have the time. To make carving the chicken after roasting easier, we're going to remove the wishbone. To be honest, I don't always do this. I find that I could carve the meat just fine with the wishbone in, but I do think knowing how to do this is an important concept to understand for our pursuit in roasted chickie perfection. Now that the wishbone is removed, it's time to stuff the birds. Stuffing the birds with aromatic ingredients gives us a chance to infuse our chicken with flavor and keep our bird plump and perky. The traditional bird will receive an herbal enema of sage, thyme, garlic, and lemon, while our hip, new age chicken gets a treatment of garlic, lime, and orange. So like I said earlier, stuffing the cavity of the bird helps hold the breastplate up, giving us that chic, rounded look. Now that we are stuffed and loaded, we're going to line the compound butters that we made earlier under the skin of the chickens. As the chicken roasts, the butter will melt, helping the skin crisp up and the breast meat stay moist. Use your fingers to carefully loosen the skin off the breasts, then smash a bit of that compound butter into a puck shape and pop it under the skin. Then use your fingers to press and spread the butter around the entire breast. Now we're going to truss the bird, or in other words, tie the bird up with string. We do this so that it cooks evenly and keeps its shape while roasting in the oven. I'm going to first truss up the traditional bird using one of the many classic trussing techniques, then I'll truss the other bird using a modern approach that I learned by watching Chef Grant Crilly over at Chef Steps. For the tradish method, using about 3 forearm lengths of kitchen twine, lay the middle of the twine underneath the tail, also called the Pope's nose, and the legs. Bring the twine up and cross the string over itself, then maneuver the twine back under the legs to create a figure 8 looking design, then pull the string tight. Now bring the string back around to the front of the chicken. We want to tie the skin down so that it stays taut and firm, which will give us a crispier skin. To do this, tie the string like you would a knot, but instead of crossing it once at the beginning, cross it over 3 times, which will lock the knot in place and keep it tight. From here, pull the knot tight, then tie it off and trim the excess string. As for the wings, I like to tuck them under the bird so that 1, the tips don't scorch, and 2, because it helps the chicken stay upright and stable. 1 down, onto the modern trussing approach. Using the same amount of twine, place the middle of the string under the middle of the chicken, then lay the strings over the armpit of the chicken wing. We need to tie off the string at the end near the breast skin to keep it tight like we did in our first truss. Then bring the string around the wings and cross it at the crown of the chicken breast. Pull it tight, then come back under the legs, then over the legs, and cross the string at the top. Pull the string tight under the crown once more, then flip the bird over and tie it off. Boom, a trussed chicken with a 21st century swagger. I know that this method looks goofy, but the idea here is to expose more of the chicken's skin to the hot air of the oven, giving us, you guessed it, a more crispy skin. Also, it's worth noting that by nature, dark and white meat cook at different rates, so separating the legs or the dark meat away from the body like this allows it to cook at the same rate as the white meat would, which would otherwise overcook. Our chickens are now buttered, stuffed, and trussed. Now it's time to season. I'm only seasoning the modern bird because I already seasoned the traditional before this. Be generous when seasoning here. it's really hard to over-season a whole chicken. We want that flavor, so use kosher salt and make sure to sprinkle it on everywhere. And I like some water at the bottom of the tray to help keep the chicken drippings from scorching and smoking out my apartment, so do that. I prefer to roast my chickens in a shallow rimmed baking tray over a rack to keep the skin from sogging out on the sheet tray, but use what you have. A casserole dish will totally be fine. So these chickens take roughly an hour to roast. I start my chickens at 425 degrees Fahrenheit to jump start the crisping process, then I turn the heat down to 375 to finish them off. I start the bird's legs facing the back of the oven because the legs take longer to cook, and generally it's the hottest in the back corners of the oven. Because ovens have hot and cold spots, it's important to turn the birds every 15 minutes or so to help them cook evenly. And some ovens have a convection setting which uses a built-in fan to circulate hot air in the oven. A good rule of thumb if using the convection setting is to make sure that the temperature is lower by 10 to 20 degrees than you would if you were to be roasting it regularly. Feel free to periodically add more water to the bottom of the sheet tray if you feel like things are getting a little smoky. After about an hour in the oven, depending on your oven and how many times you flip the birds, they should be finished. Just get a look at these BBs. Now we need to let the chickens rest for at least 20 minutes. In layman's terms, resting the chickens allows the temperature to lower and gives the meat time to redistribute juices throughout the bird. This principle stands true for most oven roasts and chops. And don't use foil to tent the chicken to keep it warm. Doing so could make the skin go from crispy to soggy real quick, so it'll keep warm as it rests, don't worry. You might have heard if the juices run clear that the chicken is done, but I prefer to rely on temperature to make sure everything is safe to eat. Poke a thermometer between the leg and the thigh. Make sure your thermometer isn't touching any bones which could mess up the reading. If the chicken registers 160 degrees Fahrenheit, then it's ready to eat. If it reads a little over or a little under within 3 degrees or so, you're totally fine. If not, just throw it back in the oven for a little bit. Now it's time to carve. If you already know how to butcher a whole fresh chicken, then you basically know how to carve a roasted one. Slice down between the leg and the thigh, then dislocate the legs and cut them off. The oyster is a small pearl-shaped piece of dark meat on the back of the bird that many chefs consider to be the best part of the chicken, so, save that for yourself. Little chef's treat for you. With the legs removed, it's time to grab the white meat, aka the breasts. The breasts are divided by what's called a keel bone. Slice down one side of that bone and press your knife to the keel bone to avoid chunking the meat. Then cut through the wing joint to remove the breast. At this point, you are ready to serve, but if you'd like more pieces, you can turn this into a 6 or 8 piece chicken. Let's first divide the leg into the drumstick and the thigh. Flip it over so that you can see the joint easier, then slice right between where the thigh meets the drumstick. You should feel little to no knife resistance. Now cut the wings from the breast like so. The joint is easy to see and feel. That's a wing and that's a breast. Breastises. Also, like a steak, chicken breasts have a grain, which is the direction that the muscle fibers are structured. It runs more or less down the breast vertically, so cut against that for an extra tendy breast. And there she blows. One whole roasted chicken sliced and diced and ready for a crowd. Let's not forget about our modern chickie. This chicken came out way better than I thought it would for not having been dry brined. The skin is super dry, but the meat was still moist. I'll definitely be experimenting with this technique moving forward. Alright, so if you'd like to learn more about the science of brining, wet versus dry brining, the different types of chickens, there are different types of chickens, I'm going to leave a bunch of useful information below in links, so feel free to check that out and get learned. I know this video isn't going to win any creativity awards, but I do strongly believe that mastering, or at least getting decent at roasting a whole chicken is sort of a rite of passage for a cook. Hopefully after watching this video, you now have the tools to get that perfect golden bee skin and that super moist meat, so get after it. I have faith in you. Anyways, thank you for watching, and thank you for coming and checking out my microscopic corner of the internet. If you're new here, please be sure to subscribe if you're into this type of thing. Yeah. Peace.